scrappy junk journal from all trash and scraps that I had laying around that I saved, including the cover, which was an experiment with trying to do crazy quilting. And so that ended up in the scrap pile, and it was really only enough for the front, so I just added more, I sewed more onto it to make it into a big rectangle and glued it down. This little fabric bead with wire wraps and some yarn was already in my jewelry area from some past little experiment. Button is glued down. This is a fabric yo-yo with some, the pink stuff is cheesecloth in a little bunch and some randomly sewn beads, and that's on 2 discs of fabric. This photo was from a book which I really liked a lot. I like mermaids a lot. And the cheesecloth is, some places it's loose and some places it's glued down. It was supposed to be like a fishnet looking thing for the photo, and these little plastic, they're just something you can get at the craft store. They're sort of just like little bubbles that those are supposed to be like the water bubbles. And some collaging on this page. The base is made from DVD inset and just some book clippings randomly. Here's the other side of the DVD. And I really love that eye, so I'm glad it shows when this is taken out. And a decorative card, and decorative washi tape around this funky picture. This is from a book, page 2, and it's I doubled it up and stitched it with some shiny embroidery thread to make a nice pocket. A little border from a kid's book and some washi tape on this, a map index. This little envelope has a brad, and I think that's a bracelet finding. It's got a little fish guy in there with his fish lips. An envelope for coins usually. And you'll notice that there are no blank spots for writing in this journal. I realized that I'm never going to write in these things, and I find that the making of them is the therapeutic part in itself. And so I'm not, I mean, this is blank, I guess, but really you wouldn't have to write anything in here. If I ever did, it wouldn't be very personal stuff anyway, because I would like to show off the journal, so I don't want things to be, you know, rather personal. But so I don't have any blank writing spots in here, so I don't know if you could call it a junk journal. I feel the journaling part is the part that soothes me. So this tag I made a while ago with some hand painting, and then I just put this extra image on from a book because it was funky. Little top spot there. This is a little piece of fabric on this coin envelope and a stamp. And this is from a sketchbook, How to Draw People. And apparently, since I'm a juvenile boy in, you know, grade school, I had to put this in because, I don't know, I just found it funny still at this age. Here's a little piece of corrugated cardboard that I ripped off the top layer, so it's just the ribbing here. That's from a package of cookies. These are 2 punch outs from a book. Some old experiment I was doing with some dyed paper and diamond glaze. And the base here is more of that DVD, that same DVD liner notes. You might recognize this. When you get those credit card offers in the mail, it's the amortization table of the finances of how much you'll be paying. And that was kind of a nice, like, bland black and white background to use. When you lift this up, it's got this 50s lady. She was actually just in black and white, and I wanted to make her a little bit in color, so I just used some light colored pencil on her to give her some color. A little chicken, just in case you look under the flap. I want no one to be disappointed when they look through all of the corners of this book. This was a packaging, it was a package of something that I got in the craft store, and so it was originally like this with a plastic bag glued on. But it has a wood grain on it, so I used it as a little door with this little bling attached to it. And these three little girls are all from the same page of a book. I just separated them out a little bit. Some stars. And this part of the DVD thing looked sort of like sky, so that's why I put the stars up there. They're checking out some horses. Up here is just another little reversible card. And this is just a regular paper clip. Has a little bit of paint on it, but I just made a little envelope-y sort of thing just to slide over the top of it, so it's not just a plain metal, oops, safety pin. God, I can't speak. So it's not a plain whatever, paper clip. And so I just fashioned that a little bit from it. That goes here. And this is a punch from a book and a little stamp. The round thing is a punch from a book, and then that's scrapbooking paper. And it's backed with, you might recognize this too, the privacy envelopes you get with bills or just banking mail. And that shoe was a graphic in a old-timey book. This little cloth is just a couple of layered pieces and the tiniest little rickrack and tiniest little button to dress up this paper clip. This page is from 3 different sources. I have had this picture for quite a while and have been saving it for just the right thing to do with it. And I like the expression on his face. Over here we have a clothing tag. Washi tape along this. It's a bag you get for treats for a kid's party or something like that. So on this half of the bag, inside is, let's see, a piece of a book with washi tape around it and one of the few blank spaces you'll see on here, but it is quite decorated, so it can stay blank as far as I'm concerned. This is from a local business, and I thought their card was very pretty, and I just added some embellishment on the back. Dictionary entry along with this girl because she has the perfect poker face, and she came from a whole separate book. Although she could be in the dictionary next to the definition, if you ask me. Book page that was sprayed with ink, little punch with a little rivet, and a scalloped edging. And this little Turner part was part of a package of something that I got. I think it was file folders. This just went perfectly in the space because of the size, and it needed to go in. This half of that it's a little scrap notebook that I like to take a bunch of tiny little scraps that are collecting on the table and just sew them across the top and add a little trim. And I just find those very sweet. This came in some junk mail, so I think it's around here somewhere, but I really like the font and the bold. Little painting scrap paper. This tag, I just took stuff that was literally laying around the table and glued it down. And this side is just some scrapbooking paper that was minimal. But this has no purpose whatsoever except a little collage. Kind of an old-fashioned looking thing. I think I was practicing how to do the inking effect for my junk journal. That was the vintage one, because that was just laying in the scrap box. Just a little piece of decorative paper here. This is a book page that's glued here and here to make a nice pocket, and a single stamp. The background here is a sewing pattern. If you're familiar with sewing, you'll recognize this name brand. and she was in a catalog for clothing. Scraps made into a little pennant or banner. This was a reject print from something I was doing, but I rather like it because Coats is now Coats and Clark, and they still make thread to, you know, these days, but they've been around for a long, long, long time. This feather was next to my bird bath in my backyard, and I just encased it in some plastic packaging and some shiny washi tape. There's something interesting to go in the book. The background here was in the order of some yarn I got, and they have a little Yarnopoly game at Eat, Sleep, Knit, and so I thought that was kind of colorful. This page turner tab is a scrapbooking paper. This came in with some Dove chocolates, and I will say that I'm also collecting all of the different phrases, because each chocolate has, you know, something else on it. There's probably quite a few phrases. I've only gotten a couple of repeats, but in my future journal there will be a page with just those little things from the chocolate on it. This was an old envelope flap, and in here, this is just a little tiny metal washer with some alcohol ink on it, and a piece of cardboard from packaging, and just an interesting little mini book. This came from a box of panty liners. So I just cut the graphic out, and that made the perfect little belly band, which is just for tucking things in. A stamp of a flower sewn onto an old calendar, I believe that graphic is from. And this came from a graphics book too. And here's the other hand of the Yarnopoly you can get. I think it's if you buy so much yarn, or maybe it's some sort of a prize thing from that company. I got this old-timey book about how to sew, and it looked like it was from the 50s. So I like that it gives you tips on how to repair your girdle. And then some coordinating sewing graphics to go with it. A single piece of decorative string and some punches on a paper bag. Actually, this also here is from a craft store. I quite like this border. It comes on all of the, I think it's called Art & Co. craft supplies. I always cut that out and save them. Paper bag punch here, and some stamping experiments, I believe, and some aged paper. And this is from that same sewing book about, it was how to determine your body type. So it's got a bunch of these girls, and it sort of looks like they're sort of alien women. This is an actual piece of fabric that I cut out from a really neat novelty fabric I got with a bunch of foxes with sweaters on, and they're just adorable. This background here came in a package of buttons. Cut that out. Washi tape there. Here's another pose of that fox. I love foxes. And so here's the other body types you can pick out. And this page here is from an old, it was like a logbook of a woman who kept them for years and years, and it would just have her daily life. It didn't have like anything personal. It just had, you know, what happened that day and so forth. And I got them at a yard sale. I picked up a couple of them, and this is a little bit coffee dyed, but actually it was hot cocoa that spilled all over it also, so it made it look extra dirty. So I don't know if that's good or bad. And that is some promotional mail from the SPCA. Just a magazine clipping. A tag from Jeans. Some stamping and a jelly print piece of paper that never ended up anywhere. More of that same punch, and a bookmark with this young girl cut out from one book and this from a different book. California dried fruit. I only put that California because also this is made in California, so a little continuity there. A little bunting, just from scrapbooking paper. This was I was figuring out how to do image transfers on tape, and that just looked random and kind of fun. Here's more of the privacy envelopes from bills around the side. So it's kind of a nice backgroundy thing because you don't really look at it, it's just sort of gray, but you know, it works because there's always plenty of it around. This little piece of cardboard was from the front of a puzzle box that I had done. Sorry, just cut that out. Oops. Oops, here's Yarnopoly again. Right here, the background. And this has just various things sewn on it. Here is a clothing care tag, just a little snippet of, I think that's wrapping paper. Oh no, it's just from a catalog. This is wrapping paper. Just a little ledger paper and a stamp. So, not much there. These are just punched from a hole punch. And actually this is just a Brad holding these together. A little sheep and a sun from a package of incense. This little experiment, can you see how shiny it is? I just love diamond glaze. It makes everything pretty. It was just watercolor paper with some watercolor on it and some stamping that got cut out and, you know, shined up. And that's the front of this booklet. Here's another of that same envelope flap. Piece of cocktail napkin with some stamping around. Wrapping paper. The whole thing is a book page here. Little decorative thing. Envelope and book page. Another blank piece. I guess you could write something on there. A tooth from the dictionary. I love dictionary graphics. I don't know why. This was on a little Halloween crafting supply that I bought. A little tiny pumpkin face. A tea bag with a little cloth sewn on. And then it's pasted down onto, this is a paint sample card, so you can tell paint colors. And inside here, a pair of eyes. And I really do not go for magazine pictures or actual photograph pictures. I much prefer illustrations. Or if it's going to be a photograph, if it's in black and white or if it's old time. But this is kind of one of the rare times that I used this from a magazine. Just needed something that was sort of a little dual picture that was side by side. So I've got a secret little pocket down here. Oh my, look at my mustache. And this could be easily not noticed by a person flipping through the book if they didn't know about it. That paint chip idea, I had in a different video. It's taking a hole punch and taking the same paint sample card and making the gradient look like that. And this is from two different sources, obviously, but I thought it was cute that he's just this little thing and supposedly he's watching him. The background here is that same logbook, and she used to get them for free, I guess, from her, either, was it the power company or the insurance company? Oh, insurance. It must have been insurance. And so she would just write about her daily stuff, and that's what this background page is. Incense package. Oh, I just love it. It doesn't need a thing. I just love this sort of, you know, colorful Indian-based art. So that's on its own right there. A painting piece of paper with a little tie on here. Wrapping paper cut out. And I reinforced it with some card and added some tissue paper. Here's another bill backing. This little critter was in a book, just needed to be cut out. He was in the corner of a book. Down here is the edge you usually cut off of fabric that has these little testing colors and numbers. I guess for the factory they need that. And she looks like she's having huge amounts of fun. Probably because someone stuck that hat on her, which came from a greeting card. I think it was originally on a dog's head. So, there you have it. Piece of scrapbooking paper that I had punched with a hole punch for something else, and then decided to just go ahead and use that. Here's the other side of the incense packaging. Oh, I just love that. I could look at that all day. An old magazine where you had to send in this piece of paper if you wanted to order something with some stitches around it, and a furniture nail that I took the pointy part off and just glued that down. And if you'll notice, she has this, the way she sits in there, it covers her privates perfectly. Not that you can really see them anyway, but, and then this came from that magazine too. Oh my goodness. Tiresome exercise. I'd rather lose weight without it. Thanks. Here's the rest of the paint sample, and from a book title page, little safety pin. You can get these in the sewing department. I know they sell them in the fancy Tim Holtz area, but you can also get this kind of pin in the sewing department. It's just that they're silver instead. A little scrap of embossed paper, silver on black, with some silver embroidery thread, I believe that is. Iris was always happy to stop for a chat. An old-timey lady from a book. This background here was jelly printing and stamping that ended up in the papers box. And this little Spidey she's washing her clothes, hanging her clothes up on her web. And what I think is very funny is how this shirt has 4 arms, and the pants have 3 legs, and here's 4 arms. I just thought that was so funny. This pocket, let's see what's in here. Oh, another one of my scrap packets. Is that all? Oh no, one more thing. I got some old funky mini postcards at a yard sale last weekend, and I was like, wow, that's fortunate. So this was the whole card. It wasn't cut from anything, and I just added some text from I don't know, something. It was a book that had some printed text on it. The background here is teapots, which was a napkin. So I separated that out and glued it down. And I like this little children's rhyme. Kind of goes with this bird, who I made this envelope out of a book page. Very simple to make these type of envelopes. And inside here is just this guy. He was on a package of apples, and I just wrote that. That's not a stamp or anything. So it kind of is like the birds and the bees, get it? I don't know. Not that great of a little connection, but let's see. This little mini part in here has, this is just a to from tag. This is some scrapbooking paper and an old print off, and this is a to from stamp. This is a stamp that I had it on some thick cardboard, so I just cut it all out and added this to it, and I wrote that on the back. Let's see, some sewing here to hold up the folder edges, some stamping. I like this bee's face. He looks very not amused. Some shiny scrapbooking paper, and little book on cats. I had a book on cats, and I had lots of pictures of cats in it, so I made this little book with her featuring on the cover, and this is the back. I have a bunch of these from the library of, and they're just tiny, and I can see myself using them in all my little tiny books. This was a funky font that I was trying out, and it just looks like strange writing. I had it already printed off, so I just used that. In the back, there's a little tiny pocket, and it's got a place for 2 little tiny notes. I love this little cat book, so cute. This is from that old magazine. I'm not sure what it was an ad for, but they certainly are bossy, these 3. They want you to do things, and they're not going to take no for an answer. This was from a Christmas card that I just cut this out and then made my own little thread thing. So together on the side here. And this was from an archaeology book about what year people were doing certain things. So with this in mind on this page, I whipped up a real quick little weaving thing on this page and glued it down just so that it would be part of the same subject matter. Wrapping paper cutout, and she is from a Trader Joe's flyer, and Trader Joe's is a grocery chain that sends out flyers like this with the old-timey pictures, and so I just got some beads and made it look like she was holding that. A little bird with the end on it, and you can see the other end of this jelly printing page with the stamping. And these crazy twins. I really like that picture. I like them. And glued some ribbon down, a little bit of these blingy dots, and that's the end.